All right, well, here we go. Episode 3, 4. I can't remember. And I apologize. I want to start off with an apology that I have not been posting that much lately. It's been busy for me the last couple months with some stuff going on with my job and everything else. But I'm going to try my hardest to keep pumping these videos out and keep it going as best I can. As always, I want to say thank you for all my YouTube members. You guys are amazing. And I'm going to try and push myself for you guys and everybody who watches these videos. It's a pretty straightforward video. You're going to need some contrast paints, but first off, if this is your first time watching the channel or you're a long-time listener, first-time caller, hit that subscribe button. But without further ado, let's learn how to paint the Broodmother from Oathsworn. Alright, as always, the first thing we're going to do is start scraping off all of those nasty mold lines. Now, for being such a big model, there's not that many mold lines on there. I was actually quite impressed, and I'm quite impressed with all of the Oathsworn videos. Now, this is going to be the only Oathsworn video you're going to get where it's not hidden from a camera initially, and you'll see what I mean in the next video. After you're satisfied with your scrape job, take some of that black primer. If you're using spray paint, you can use that. I'm using black primer because I do a whole bunch of them at once, and it saves time and a ton of money over time. Once completely dry, we're going to take a big makeup brush that I got off of Amazon, and we are going to brush this all over our miniature with a Mechanicus standard gray. Now, you don't have to use this. You can use any neutral gray you want, but just a gray. Next, we are going to take some pure white, and we're really going to lightly brush this on the top. We're going to create that zenithal highlighting, so the rats are going to have the brightest points on the back of our Broodmother, and then the base where the skulls are at, and on the face of our Broodmother. Well, like I said, we're going to be using a lot of contrast paints for this, and the first one we're going to use is this Ratling Grime. We're not going to go crazy purplish like it looks like in the card art. You're going to see why, because I felt like the two things that you're going to see for Boss 1 and 2 are kind of similar. Kind of gives away, but not really. So I wanted to change the color scheme for that, and you'll understand why. Next, we're going to be using some Volupus Pink for all of our open wound areas. Now, we're going to do some things with this coming up here in the future that you'll see, but we're going to paint all of that area and the inside with that Volupus Pink. You can also spare some areas that you think might be the subcutaneous fat tissue that we're going to paint here in a little bit, but you can cover it all in pink. For our rat tail, we're going to use a little Basilicanum Grey on there. We're going to start working on all of our rats. Now we're going to use a series of colors. You don't have to specifically use those. You can use whatever you want. It doesn't really matter. I'm just picking out different contrast paints and making it look like rats. Again, there is no specific rhyme or reason to how I'm painting these rats, but we're going to use a little skeleton horde on a couple of these guys, a little snakebite leather on that last one, and some Gryph-Charger Grey that you're going to see here in a second. Now as you're painting these, it gets kind of redundant and silly, I guess you could say. Not so much silly, but it does get very redundant. And you're just picking them out, turn on some music, listen to a book, watch a TV show, and enjoy the paint. I found that by doing different colors on the rats, it made the miniature, well, a model, this isn't really a miniature, stand out even more while I was painting it. I felt like the rats really gave it vibrant life on the back compared to the dull Ratling Grime that is our Broodmother. And as we're continuing with the rats, I'm just picking out different types of contrast paints that I believe rats would be. Similar colors in contrast, but just slightly different enough to make it look or stand out to the naked eye. Once you're satisfied with all of the colors of your rats, we're going to take some of that Black Templar, we're going to paint all of those tails on the rats. For our Broodmother hands and feet, we're going to take some of that Gore-Gunta Fur and put it all over. And you'll notice once you paint it on, you can already see the zenithal highlighting sticking out. And that's why it's such a pivotal point of painting this miniature, is that it brings in the natural highlights from the zenithal highlighting. And it really takes away a lot of the work that you have to do. Probably for my least favorite part now, and this was painting all of the bone areas on the rat. This includes the teeth, all of the bone that sticks out on the tail, the claws, on the hands and feet, and all of our little tiny rat mouths and claws, if you can see them. This took a long time and it really got annoying at some points. But do not skip this part. This is such a pivotal eye-looking point of the miniature that you don't want to miss out on. Now going to that subcutaneous fat tissue we were talking about, I'm going to outline a lot of these lesions and open wounds on our Broodmother. This is going to create that fat tissue that you can see as if you were looking at a dead animal that's got some fat on it. Just going around the rims of each lesion or open area, and no rhyme or reason, I made it smaller rather than larger inside each open area. Next, we're going to take some of that pink horror and we're going to paint the raised areas inside that pink. This is kind of a pre-highlight before we get to the highlights here in a moment. And for our rat little ears, we're going to take some of that Screamer Pink and put it in there. Again, another kind of tedious portion of painting this, but kind of necessity. And before our quick little highlights and one wash we're going to take some white and paint those eyeballs. Alright, for all of our bone areas and all of our lesion areas, we're going to take some of that Agrax Earthsahde and just dump it on there. Now, once satisfied with all of our areas that we went over, we're going to take some pink horror again, and we are going to highlight up our lesion areas inside of our ears as well on our rats. Next, to highlight up the pink just a little bit more, we're going to take some of the Emperor's Children and just hitting certain areas on the top of our lesion area and inside the ears. Next, we're going to take some Averland Sunset and just go over the raised areas of our subcutaneous fat tissue once again. And as the last little highlight on those fatty areas, we're going to take some Yriel Yellow, and again, use this sparingly just on some raised areas, just to give it a nice little break in the color and some brightness in other areas. And as we're winding down here, we're going to take some of that Ushabti Bone and start using this on our teeth and claws areas. I'll show you an easy way to do the tail here in 1 second. Grab yourself a nice small dry brush and make sure you get a vast majority, 95% of all that paint off there, and you're just going to lightly dry brush that onto the bone area of the tail. Now, if you get some on the tail, it's not a big deal. You're not really going to notice it, and it adds to the contrast of it anyway, so it's an easy way to do this, and you don't have to worry about painting it over and over again. And as a final highlight, we're going to dry brush some Screaming Skull onto our tail and onto our teeth and claw areas. Before highlighting up our eye, we're going to use some Nuln Oil in there. Just get a nice little dab and put it in there and let it dry completely. And while that Nuln Oil is drying, we're going to work on our base. First thing we're going to use is some Skeleton Horde and put it obviously on all of our skeletons that are scattered around the base area. Next, we are going to take some Plaguebearer's Flesh and we're going to put it around that skull area, making that nice plague look for our miniature. And as a final highlight onto our base, we're going to take some Wyldwood and we're going to paint it onto the tree areas, mixing a little bit into that Plaguebearer's Flesh right outside of the skeleton horde skulls that we had painted. And finally, we're going to re-highlight up those eyes a little bit with just some white, bringing some life back to our Broodmother. And then finally, the favorite part of painting the miniature, because that means you're done, some black on the rims just to give it our nice black color. And that is it. Look how well you did. Not too crazy, time consuming because it is a large model, but not terrible. Contrast paint really helps out in this. Well, I want to say thank you to everybody who watches this, all my YouTube members, all the subscribers, and if it's your first time watcher, hit that subscribe button, and I hope to see you on the next one of more Oathsworn. Alright, paint on.